Hello, RP people, and welcome back to another episode of Role Playing as Smart People, the podcast where we pretend to know what we're talking about when it comes to all things tabletop. My name is Santa, and thanks for tuning in again. Joining me as always, I got Scott W. and Mr. Finder. Say hello, guys.
What's up?
Hey.
So on tonight's episode, we're going to ask, but is it art? And the answer is, usually it matters. So, the actual topic of this episode is we're going to be talking about how much does art in RPG books actually impact either gameplay or even just how much do we want to buy it based off the art alone. I know personally I've bought in books solely for the reason where art pretty, me buy. I don't know. What about you guys?
Yes, I buy a lot of, nowadays, a lot of the game books that I buy are based purely on the art because I know I'm not going to probably ever play them.
Yeah, right. So you're buying more for a coffee table book kind of thing.
Yes, that inspiration, and I like to support good artists. And so it's like, there's probably not a book I won't buy from Free League because, personal opinion, they have the best art in the industry right now. Modifius is probably a close second, but I think Free League has the best art, and I own almost all their games, and I've played Forbidden Lands. I'm GMing Coriolis. I will probably never get to play Black Void. I will probably never get to play Mutant Year Zero. There's just a bunch of stuff I'm not going to get to play, and it makes me sad, but I love the artwork, so I buy the books.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's just human nature, I think. I mean, I've been got by even fantasy novels, and I'm like, oh, this is cool art, and it's just horrific stories.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure me and Finder, we both bought Morkborg based on the art alone.
Well, I bought Morkborg on the art, but not alone. It was also some of the other stuff that we'd read, like some of the tables, some of the sidebar comments. Those things cracked me up, and so I'm also about writing. Yeah. So if the artwork isn't good, but the writing captures me, which in a game book is difficult to do, because if the artwork for the game doesn't grab me, I'm probably not going to pick up the game to see if it's worth investing in. However, with novels and things like that, I can flip through that. Heck, Discworld. I bought the book Small Gods, which wasn't great art. I mean, it was a picture of a turtle on the cover, and that's about it. So there wasn't any real artwork to engage me. Mm-hmm. But the first 3 pages of that book, even if I didn't like the rest of the book, the first 3 pages of Small Gods was sufficiently good that I'm like, this is worth, at the time, like $3, because this was back in the 80s, early 90s when I bought Small Gods. But the writing was so good. I was literally sitting in the bookstore laughing uncontrollably just from the book, and I'm like, okay, even if nothing else, this price is worth those 3 pages. And so I bought that it was not an art influence at that point.
Well, even I have one book on Kickstarter that I literally bought just because the art. And in fact, I paid for the goddamn, like the higher special edition one because I was like, ooh, art pretty. And now I'm like, do I even really care about the art? Like, I mean, care about it that much? And I'll show you how much I care about it. Is the fact that currently I'm actually trying to remember what it was called. So I'm actually looking it up on Kickstarter.
Oh, man. If it's the art, then why bother with a hard copy, right? Because you can just have the PDF and pull the art from the PDF.
I'll tell you why, because there's something visceral about owning the book.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm never going to play these games, and so I buy the games from Free League in hard copy when, like you said, I have them in PDF as well because they come with the PDF. But when they're on my computer, they're completely out of sight, out of mind. Whereas right now, I turn around and I look at the books. I'm like, oh, those are cool books, and I will occasionally pick them up off of the bookshelf and just flip through them, going, man, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
No,
Whereas I can't do that with electronics. So
it's definitely true. Scott, what about you? You ever impulse buy on art alone?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it has to have happened in, you know, since '82. At some point, I've purchased, you
Yeah,
know,
that's fair.
but yeah. Well, it just sucks to get pulled into the art and then realize the game just sucks balls or it's not for you, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
And then,
well,
well,
yeah.
I
Go
mean,
ahead. Go
art
ahead.
doesn't always make a game, so and art doesn't always sell.
no, that's definitely true.
Well, which is really sad for me. I mean,
Yeah,
I know enough artists now, which is one reason why I try to support art as well, because it's like I know what those artists are going through, and
Hmm.
it's like, well, you know what? I don't know this artist, but I'll throw him a few bucks.
yeah. That's why I like Patreon really for a lot of stuff like that. You know, that way I'm like, oh, you make really cool art or maps or whatever, and I'd rather support that and have access to the shit in
Yeah.
a lot of instances. That way
Oh yeah,
I'm not worried about being tied to anything that I'm never going to use.
no.
Like if you're talking Patreon, like I don't subscribe to a lot of Patreons. There's a couple that I have considered, and there's one that I do, and that's Mishka's Maps or something like that.
Uh huh.
And that's because those maps are phenomenal for cyberpunk and sci-fi. So it's like, hey, I need something for Coriolis, so those maps fit the tone that I want perfectly, and they're quality maps. And a lot of times, I can get them with the dynamic lighting, all that stuff pre-configured for Foundry for Mishka. But that's also one reason why I have. So here's the funny thing. I don't like D&D. I don't mind playing D&D. It's not my
Mm.
favorite system because I suck at rolling dice.
Yeah.
But
You need
but
bennies.
on Roll20, I have bought or I bought the Player's Handbook. I've bought Monster Manual, Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I think I own like three or four different D&D Wizards of the Coast books on Roll20 that I bought purely for the artwork because Wizards does top-notch art for epic fantasy,
Oh
and
yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
so it was cheaper for me to buy the monster manual and get like 120, 150 something tokens that are awesome that I can use, even though I will never use the monster stats themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Same.
so the artwork there, I mean, D&D got at least a electronic purchase out of me because based purely on the art.
You can always tell when Finder is turned away to look at his book collection.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly what I was doing because it's like, oh look, there's Vason and there's Black Void, and this whole topic just has me looking at my bookshelf constantly now. So
Yeah,
oh, but there's Symbaroum on my desk, so I can just hear and stare at Symbaroum.
still haven't looked at the artwork for that. So,
Oh, dude, you got
It's
to check out Symbaroum.
is it really that good of art?
It's evocative, and that's what I like about Free Leagues is their artwork. We so for those who aren't on our Discord server yet, join us because we talk about game stuff there too. And we had a
Plugging.
conversation recently about character sheets, and one of the comments was how character sheets can serve as like a one-page elevator pitch, and very valid points of like, you know what, here's an example of one character sheet, here's another one, and here's another one, and Scott's comment is like, yeah, that second one tells me I will never play that game.
Yeah, it was a
Um,
mess.
and for me, and part of it was the character sheet helps you key in on what's important in this game. And for me, the artwork does a great job if it is quality artwork and if they do a good job of getting a consistent style of evoking what is this setting about, what's it going to be like, and that's one thing that I love about Free League is Symbaroum's artwork is consistent, it is top quality, and all of it is evocative.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest problem with most Savage Worlds games is the artwork is not as consistent.
Yep.
There will be a few pieces that are phenomenal, and then there are some that are meh, and then there are some like, really, guys, you paid for
Yeah.
that piece of artwork? Like, so,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, for me, it helps evoke.
Well, it's really funny because like even like he was talking like the guy from our Discord. He said the thing about actually about having the character sheet in back and all that. And when I asked this question also on Reddit, a lot of responses where it's like the art is really nice, but and this is one gripe that we've had with RPGs in the past is they're like it's not just about the art on the page, but also the artistry in the layout. Because they're like if the book could have really pretty pictures, but if they're misplaced in the wrong place, or they have the sentences, they have them over here and then they have like this little glyph over here, it just breaks up the flow. And they're saying the whole book itself really has to you can't just put in pretty pictures and have it look good. You really need to actually have it so it all melds in together, even if it's not a picture. So I think that kind of played into uh, what the gentleman from our Discord is, who I'm still not convinced is not exactly not Scott, because he has the same name, and it's just instead of a W, it's an M.
There you go.
So I'm
No,
pretty sure this Scott M fellow, I just said his name, fuck it. The Scott M fellow is just Scott W in hiding, but I cannot
I
prove
have
it
a
yet.
bot going.
well, we've never seen them in the same place at the same
We
time.
have not
Correct.
seen him in the same place. That is a very good point.
That's fair.
Oh,
No, but you know what? That really is interesting because I think layout captures me more than art does. Well, I know layout is art, but I
mhm.
really do think layout definitely will turn me off. Like that second character sheet that was put on the Discord was fucking hot garbage. That game should be burned. The fucking funeral pyre. It was dumb. It was essentially the fucking rule book put onto a goddamn character sheet. That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
God, it was
Now,
awful.
I will say though, I mean, I agree. Layout is extremely important, but for me, if I've got good artwork and mediocre layout, I'm okay. It's when the layout is so atrocious that it inhibits the
The
ability
gameplay.
to read or to find the rules. As an example, Cyberpunk Red. Oh
Yes.
my goodness. When you have rules that are in sidebars,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's dumb. I'm
Yep.
sorry. And so that layout actively made understanding or comprehension of the rules difficult.
Yes.
Whereas some of the game books that I've seen that have odd choices for layout, it's like, well, that's a weird choice. I don't necessarily like it, but it doesn't inhibit my ability to play the game or to read the book. Then I can give it a pass if it's got good enough artwork.
Yeah, that's a perfect I that is probably my core example, and I know exactly the moment you're talking about in that game. Well, actually, there's two moments when we're trying to figure out grenades because they're not actually on the weapon list, even though there is grenades, but they're listed under ammunition because they can go in a grenade launcher. That was
That's so
fucked.
stupid.
And then the other one was when we're trying to figure out dual wielding. It's like, can you dual wield? Yeah, but you can only you could just like if you have dual pistols, you're like, oh, I can shoot like both of them at the same time. It's like, no, you can use one action to shoot that one, and then your second action, which instead of shooting that same gun that you just shot, you could shoot the other gun.
What the fuck's the point of that?
Well, right.
My point.
But here's the thing, though. Let's distinguish between layout and that rule, because that dual wield rule, although I don't like the rule itself is the rule.
Yeah,
But finding that rule was insane
we
because
spent
it
like
literally
15
was,
points.
yeah, it was. You have to know what terms they're using because you couldn't just search like we were searching dual wield, we were searching multi wield. We
Two weapon
were trying
combo.
to guess what their language was so that we could find it because it was not in the rate of fire. It wasn't in any of the combat sections. It was literally a throwaway comment that was outside of the normal rule text,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so hard to find. And in fact, if I remember correctly, Santa, you had to Google it, and so you found the rule on Google before we could even find it in the rule book.
That's not the only. I also that's how we figured out the grenade one too, because I googled that one. And then there was a third one that I googled, and literally I forget what the question was, but we googled it, and all these like a couple Reddit posts came up. It's like, hey, what do I do in this situation? And then it was like, well, the rules say this, but it's really improperly defined. I think it means this. And the other person's like, oh, we've been playing it like this. And the other person, oh, we've been playing it like that. It's like none of them actually fucking know. It's just a bunch of people guessing. But that's that. I think that comes to the artistry of the writing and how well
it does, right? It does come to the clarity of the writing. I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean that can be a whole nother topic in my opinion. And I know Scott has opinions about writing.
Well, yeah, it's because a lot of people, yeah, it's just weird to see. Like you said, you bought Morkboard because it entertained you, and then there are people who are just like, oh, the fucking game book needs to read like it's a goddamn technical manual. I could not be more bored if you do that route.
Yeah.
And now, I will say though, there are certain games where the style, like Paranoia. I bought Paranoia literally because of the writing in that book as well. I mean, that's one that I was reading. I was sitting there laughing again in the game store, going through Paranoia Second Edition. This was when it was brand new off the shelf, and the book's writing pulled me in. The game was fun to play, but the writing was fun as well.
No, I agree 100%. Like even one of like going on to the same Paranoia, my favorite Paranoia book to actually read is 5th edition. And even though it's probably the worst for the rules, I probably got the most giggles out of 5th edition just the writing alone. But I gotta say the mechanics of it were kind of garbagey. But yeah. And for anyone who's confused about the 5th edition, the 5th edition is actually the 3rd edition. They just decided to skip over it and go to the 5th edition.
If you talk about the 4th edition, you're a commie, so don't do it.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really weird, but I don't know. Yeah, I think I'd rather be entertained reading a book than like I'm sitting in a goddamn college class to learn your game.
Yeah.
Which is again D&D, where you need 3 books to play the game.
Yeah, I mean it's just they've been doing that forever. They'll never not do that.
I agree.
Yeah,
it still annoys me though because people want to talk about when we talk about gaming, Dungeons and Dragons is, in my opinion, like the elitist. And granted, they have great art, but I need 3 books, which when it comes out is usually about $30 to $50 a pop.
Yep.
So you're talking $90 to $150 just to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for the DM.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine the DM not having those 3 books. Then you've got other players who may buy in and buy the player's handbook. And if they don't, then you're really slowing things down because the GM has 1 book unless you've got like a really rich DM who can afford to buy multiple copies.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
Which is what I really liked about Savage Worlds back in the day when you could get a copy of it for $10.
That was so nice. That was so easy. Speaking of bad art and bad light, it's what it is, man. Pinnacle knows. I mean, they made strides to change that with this edition, but I mean, Jesus, the adventure or the deluxe edition. Well, even before that, it was just like, Jesus Christ, you guys, the art is really not that good. It's not that evocative, and your rules.
It was AD&D.
Yeah,
it was AD&D first edition.
It really was. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah,
well, I don't know.
To be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the suede art.
There's some really good pieces in there.
Yeah, I've got some that I like, and some of them I'm like, eh.
Yeah. I think the reason why is because most of it is not new. They're all from the other. They're all from the other books, and there is even that one. I forget. I was talking with you guys after the episode actually finished, and I remember saying, "I was like, wait a minute, they stole this art." And it was like a superhero art, and it was after you showed me that system. It was that super light one. That was a superhero one. I forget what it was called though. It wasn't Savage Worlds or anything like that. It was.
Yeah. It's probably like still what's Storing Cook's art though, and they just
yeah. It was. It's just I remember looking through it and I was like, this is in. And we ended up going and
Well,
actually hunting it down to see if it was the same author and they just used the same artist, and they did. But I was kind of like, wow, I kind of feel ripped off.
well, to be fair though, I mean, to be fair, art is expensive.
Oh
And
yeah.
Yes.
if you're a small company, if you're not Wizards of the Coast, getting exclusive rights to artwork
Hmm.
is going to be difficult. I mean, I have a book by Modifius. I want to say it's Legacy. I think that's Modifius. It could, I think it's, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Modifius. Anyway, the book, the game Legacy, uses artwork from the Grand Failure, which is some of the coolest art out there,
Yeah.
but it's stock art. And
Mhm.
so, if you want to be able to fill in your art count on a budget, you have to go stock. And so, you're going to run into that. And
Yeah.
so, I've seen Grand Failure in Sigil Products, which is Savage Worlds. I mean, they do stuff for Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
I've seen it in Modifius. I've seen it in other game books as well because it's going to be hard to beat Grand Failure for stock art.
Or
It's
you could
phenomenal.
just not have any art or have shit art and make 1.5 to twice what your competitors make.
Yes,
Um.
and that's what I was talking about on the Discord as well. When there was the comment about how what was it? Something about the proportion of sales to art is
Not
you'll
fucking
see it.
real.
No, because
Not.
you look at D&D and they've got great art, and
Yeah.
yeah, they outsell. And so I think that's what people use that as the measuring stick. I'm going, mothership, $1 million
Yeah.
for crap art.
A million
Yeah.
fucking four is what they made, and
And you know what's?
no art. That art sucks balls.
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, of course you did. It's zany, but it's not
No,
real. It's
the
not
reason why I
professional.
liked it is because it's more reminiscent of like water paints. Um,
Hmm.
and also it kind of fits the setting of like, you know, you're out in the like let's say you're actually on one of those ships. You're not going to have the best fucking artist. You're going to have some guy who thinks he's good drawing it in his ship, and it almost kind of evokes the kind of amateurishness of the crew itself and how yeah,
See, I
and
disagree
that's just
there. I
Yeah.
disagree. And the reason I disagree is just because you're not on a bright and shiny ship, that just means you don't have resources. It doesn't mean you're amateur.
yeah,
If you're amateur, you're dead in space. And for me, the whole premise behind Mothership is horror. And when you think about like Alien, I mean,
Yeah.
Alien is to me a mothership adventure,
yeah.
where it's a competent crew, but they're trying to make ends meet. Firefly is another one where they're trying to make ends meet, but that entire crew is completely competent.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll
I
have to,
could not stand that art. It looked like someone just fucking drew it. I don't know.
Well,
With it.
and let's talk about OSR. I mean, now
Mhm.
I will give props to some of the OSR stuff in that I think sometimes their artwork is intentionally bad because it harkens back to first edition AD&D
Sure. DCC.
or basic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like that's what the artwork looked like. And
Yeah.
so if you're trying to evoke that feeling, that's the artwork you go with.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
And
not gonna
just
lie. Oh, go ahead.
no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I used to actually hate the OSR art, the old school style, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But and it was actually kind of DCC that kind of made me start to like it because it suit. I think it's just because the other times I've seen it, it didn't really suit it.
Yeah. It was
But with
forced.
yeah, and this art
Yeah.
style, it kind of goes back to that almost like cheesy, slightly comical kind of feel to it all. And yeah, I
Yeah.
think it this their art is one that took time for it to grow on me.
Yeah. And that happens. I mean, I didn't like the AD&D books. The art in that was just hot goddamn garbage in most cases. The one picture of the
I
thief,
agree most cases.
yeah, with the picture of the thief, he looked like he had hobbit horse feet or some shit. It was just so bad. Oh my god, just an awful drawing. But yeah, and then
Uh,
even DCC and all them, they get away with. They get this like it's sometimes they just go too much. Like, ooh, look how silly we can be. I'm like, all right, we get it. We get it. But you could,
you know
yeah,
what's funny about the whole AD&D thing though is the player's handbook was kind of cool art. I mean, it something that I missed as a kid was that Player's Handbook kind of showed you how you're supposed to play as a player. You've got the guys that are defacing the
Oh yeah,
statue
yeah,
background. You've got the other two companions that are sitting there looking at the manuscript, trying to figure out where they're supposed to go, and there were henchmen helping to carry the loot.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yeah, it was all right there.
then the thing that's backwards though is the DMG cover and the Monster Manual cover. I don't think the Monster Manual cover should be the DMG, but the Efreet on the DMG was just awesome.
Yeah,
And the artwork on the Monster Manual was just laughable. I'm like, really?
Stupid. It was embarrassing to even have that book out.
It was.
Yeah,
It was. It's like, ah, oh, crap. Why can't we have a cool looking dragon?
right. So, so just so everyone, before everyone is like off to the races, like, you're full of shit. Mothership didn't make more than anybody. Fucking look up Pinnacle. Go to Mothership's Kickstarter. They made an egregious amount of money for one, a bad art, and two, I consider a system that's fucking mediocre at best, but that is what it is. And then Pinnacle's best-selling Kickstarter was what, 500K,
And
that's
that
one
was
of the,
Rifts.
and that's one of the most beloved settings and systems.
And that's American, not Canadian.
Yeah, that's American. Yeah. In make believe money, I don't know. It was 40 maple syrups. I have no idea how much.
Hey, it's not our fault that our $50 bills smell like maple syrup.
It's true. But yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people forget that. You look at the Kickstarters and you see some of those numbers and like, oh, that's pretty impressive. And then I just happened to pull Mothership and was just like, oh, we've all been had. Art don't mean shit to anybody. You think art is important, and then here we are.
I think where art comes in importance is more for the initial draw. Like,
yes,
let's talk about like the cover art, because that's the first thing anyone sees.
yeah,
And I find that is usually more of an attractor towards titles that I will look at opposed to not look at, like at the local bookstore.
yeah,
Which
absolutely.
already has a small selection compared to the indie.
Yeah,
but that doesn't always make it good.
Yeah.
It doesn't, and to that point, I mean, Simbroom, gorgeous artwork. I enjoy the game, but the guy I knew who GM'd it for me anyway, said he will never play the game again because the system doesn't support the premise of the game, and that is about corruption. But the artwork is awesome, and I love the artwork, and I think that's part of my enjoyment of the system of it itself is because the artwork it gets all these ideas going in my head of, oh man, it would be so fun to play this kind of game where it's total grimdark and it's awesome. I use that word way too frequently in this discussion.
Yeah, well, it's art. So.
It's art. Everything here is subjective. So
right, yeah,
technically,
thing, right? Is
we're all talking out our own ass right now. But no,
that's different from any other week.
But that's really that's a good point, though, right? Is like what? Maybe that's it. I'm trying to think of like where the subjective nature of art would come into play on RPGs.
To be honest, I think what can end up drawing more attention to for at least I kind of noticed this. I was looking through an RPG the other day. It was actually a couple weeks ago, but there was races in that book. It was kind of a fantasy style RPG with some like flintlock pistols, but magic in a faraway world. Not going to mention names because the book is currently in only beta, or is being tested. So I'm not going to knock it until it's finished. And there's some races where I looked at the pictures like, oh, that's actually kind of a cool picture. It makes me kind of want to play that one. And then there's other ones where I looked at. One of them was like, what are those things called? The things with the pan flutes, centaurs, but with goats or whatever. The horns. Satyrs, yeah. And there's a satyr, and I saw the picture of that one, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never playing that one. I tried to read through it because I was like, it might be cool, but just because I saw the art, I already had that impression of it, and I was like, I just don't care.
So, question: was the satyr too pretty looking? Because you've often mentioned, and this is held true in a lot of the games we play together, you like to play the ugly things. So, if you don't want to play the satyr, is it because the art was too perfect?
No, for one, that book, the art styles were all mismatched. None of them had any kind of attaching theme, and two, it kind of the best way I can describe it is if an aging hippie liberal professor uh, decided to draw his own fan art of his alter ego character. And
Yeah.
the reason why I say that is because it totally just looks like an aging hippie with horns. Like I I don't know how to put that. Like that's literally the only way I could describe it.
Like,
And I
that's
don't
your
know if that even
opinion,
makes
man.
yeah, and I don't even know if that makes sense because I'm like I'm a hippie myself pretty much. And I thought that looked overly pretentious and dumb. So I don't know where that stands.
No, it just happens, man. It really does just happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, the AD&D art, the half orc was just fucking awful. That was just the dumbest looking fucking picture I've ever seen in my life. The paladin
Yes,
was
but
childish, you
and
know.
then and then we got into like the Monster Manual 2. And that cover of I want to say that was a hobgoblin, wasn't it? On the cover of Monster Manual 2?
Uh,
I think it was a hobgoblin.
it might have been. I honestly don't know what it was supposed to be, but it
It
was
was
at
too
least,
yellow to be an orc.
yeah, at least it was good art. But
Uh,
it changed things up at least. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, man. Like I know, but you're not wrong. An art is an initial attractor. That's why the most important thing for me for the games is getting the cover right. So you look at it and be like, "Oh, I want to see what this is about." Uh, so far, that's worked for everything.
no, it's
But
definitely
yeah,
true.
I just don't know. It is tough. And when you start flipping through them, and you're like, "Oh God."
Yeah, and there has been some titles where I've looked at it and the cover art has drawn me in. I've looked at it through and I was like, no, this game is not for me, or things like that. But I don't know. I think also art pieces like the full scale art pages sometimes are so nice to look at, as in like a breather in between chapters. You just finish character chapter and then also you get like that really kind of beautiful 2-page print that goes across both pages, and I feel like it's almost a good way to set up the next chapter without saying
Yeah.
explicitly combat, how does it work. And it's like, no, you can see it's like an all out war kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that gets into the importance of design, though, as well, because
Yeah.
the book layout, I mean, there's a reason you need artwork, and that is to prevent fatigue. You're not reading a novel. And if you were, it's a much smaller page, so you don't get as fatigued, but you're also engaged in that way. Textbooks, I mean, nobody likes to read a textbook, or I should say, very few people enjoy reading textbooks
Yeah.
because we can't just do it for a long time. And rule books are the same way. You need something to break that up,
Mm-hmm.
and artwork's the way you do that.
Yeah. 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 Like
But
a
let's talk a minute, if you don't mind, about uh, some of the other aspects of what art or why it's important to each of us. So, as an example, for me, why is artwork important to me? One, it helps evoke the setting, but it also gives me a clue into whether I might right or wrong. It gives me preconceived notions. As an example, Low Life I bought purely for the art and ended up enjoying the setting. It's a game I'll never run because I can't think in low life terms for game purposes. I
yeah.
can be a player. I can definitely be a player in a low life game, but I couldn't GM it. I just don't have the creativity for it. Um, but like Dust Bunnies, I was going to pass on because the artwork was very. I don't want to use the term childish because it looked professional. I mean, it was quality art, but the feeling that evoked for me was this is a game for kids, and I don't have kids anymore, and I'm not interested in telling stories for kids anymore, and so I passed on it initially. I ended up backing it after talking with Carl Kiesler and understanding that, like, you know what, there are some things that I can get out of it. I still doubt I would ever play the game unless it was Santa's Dust Bunny's Low Life mashup that he keeps talking about.
Right. Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
Task Force Raisin. I'm not. I literally bought the book because, like, again, like I don't have kids. I don't plan to have kids. I have two nieces who, from them growing up now, um, just seeing who they are as personalities, I have a feeling they're going to be a lot more like their mother and not be really into the nerdy shit. But I might be wrong. I'm hoping they're wrong because I would love to run a game like that. But I bought it for the ideas that I could possibly implement into it to make it something that is not meant to be.
Yeah.
But back onto the art question, like for me, I think it I think the cover of, like, art wise, I think the cover of the book is the most important part of the art for me, because it invokes kind of what I should be feeling when I'm looking at this game. There's an RPG I looked at. I'm trying to remember the name. I think it was just called Sin or something like that. And it was a purely white cover with a skull on it that was just like the outline, all in red with like almost like blood coming out of its mouth. And I thought, oh, this looks so damn cool. Turns out that book wasn't for me. Actually, after looking through it at the bookstore, I did a hard pass on it. But I find sometimes like that cover is the first thing to draw me in. If I don't like the cover, even if it could potentially be a great game, there's a good chance that I would have passed it up on the bookshelf. Now, once we get in, um, the art to me is still important, but I don't need tons of art. I just like it for things like, if you do have a lot of species or races, I like to have an idea of what they look like. I don't really care. Like, I like to have big combat scenes or stuff like that, but it's not necessary. But for me, looking at the art is a way for me to get ideas out of the game. And kind of like what you said, Finder, it really sets up the tone. Dust bunnies to me read, just like the big comfy couch right off the hop. And I actually like the art, not so much because I thought it was absolutely beautiful or anything like that, but because it set the tone so perfectly for the game, it was really enjoyable to look at. So yeah, that's kind of my feelings towards art in RPG. It's where you don't necessarily need a lot of it, but you need enough to show the personality of the game. What about you, Scott? What's your thoughts on, you know, the art itself within the book?
Honestly, it has to make me want to run the game or play the game. Like it has to be a visceral, immediate gut reaction of, okay, I want to run this. Um, and man, art can really turn that off from me.
Mm-hmm.
It really can. It's why I wrestle with like putting race art in things because it's like I'd rather give you a brief description and then let you imaginate what it looks like because the wrong art piece can turn someone, like you said, can turn someone off from a really cool character class or a race description.
Yeah, no, that's definitely
You know,
true. It's a double-edged blade.
it really is.
Talking about the races and species thing, the thing that comes to mind for me is I all of my gaming anymore is virtual.
Yeah.
I don't have an in-person game. If I get to play in person, it's maybe once or twice a year, and that's it. So the artwork becomes important for me there as well because what's your character look like? What does the monster look like? And all that sort of stuff on a virtual tabletop really can help with the game. And I where I'm going with this, I'm writing my own setting, and I have these races that I want in there, and there's reasons for each race. There is a reason each of those races looks the way that they do. And the one part that I keep kicking myself about is for some of them there are some analogs, like one class or one race is orc, more or less. Different name, slightly different take on them to some degree. Um, but there's also plant people. I'll just put it like that. And the elven race is not your typical elven race where finding artwork online is going to be difficult. And that's the thing that annoys me a lot of times is people come up with these really cool concepts, but then it's hard to find matching art for my vision of my character. And that's the one thing that, to your point, Scott, where you don't like including the art, and I think that's great because I can imagine it, but it comes down. I'm going to end up using. I have to pick somewhere,
Yeah.
and it'll never match the vision because it's too unique of a race or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so
No.
that's the part that frustrates me at times. Is like, yeah, I really love this, but man, why can't artists? All artists do is D&D art,
Right. Well, that probably is a good lead into maybe the last piece of this. None of that shit matters anymore now, does it? Thanks to AI.
Ooh.
Because
if you can get the grammars right, I
yep,
believe you might be right.
I
Yeah.
have seen incredibly beautiful AI art that uh, I would rather see in a book than some of the shit that comes out from professional artists now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I'm using actually some from that AI bot. I forget the name of it. For my
Midjourney.
Midjourney. Yeah, I'm going to use that a little bit of it just for my own game that I run with some friends. Uh, actually, next Friday. Yeah. And I'm excited
Well,
to use it because before I had no idea what to do. Now I have these like really kind of beautiful pieces of art that even like the era of it I got correct. It got correct because I wrote Victorian in it. Like it worked out so perfectly. Like
yep,
I think it is going to be a big change to how
yep.
art is done.
Even though people are crying about it, I just don't understand that part at all. Like, you don't own it. Which most people use fucking stock art. No one gives a shit about owning the art. Goddamn, get
Yeah.
over it. Jesus fuck.
Yeah. Well,
God.
and really, how much artwork in the game book is going to be owned by the creator, unless you bought exclusive rights. And
Exactly.
even then, you still don't own the art. You own the right to use the art in your book exclusively, and that's it. You still don't own it.
Yeah.
Right.
The artist owns it, and so it's like people use stock art for a reason.
Nope. 100%.
Yeah, and it's just I just don't understand the discussion. It's like, go, good for fucking you. You paid $10,000 for some fucking pieces of art that's only going to be in your book that is going to be a fucking Electrum bestseller on Drive Through RPG. Fucking mint. Smart. Wow. Must be king of the fucking noodle warriors.
Nope.
Holy shit.
No, the only thing like with the AI bots I think you might have a little bit of an issue with, and that's only a might because again they're getting better all the time, and that is making sure that the art is has the same consistent style. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are ways to do that though, because a lot of the stuff that I've done from Midjourney, most of it has the same feel, and that's because you can put in certain keywords like dramatic lighting or heroic lighting or whatever, and you could say, I want it to look like an oil painting, or I want it to look like this in this style. And so even with the AI art, there are grammars that you can use to help get a more consistent and cohesive
Yeah.
feel to the art.
No, that's definitely
Well,
true.
heck, and one of the pieces that I created, I think fits perfectly in the style of the artwork in the Simbaroom book itself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's you generate some great shit. And then, like, that one dude generated that shipwreck, and I was just like, this is fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
It was like a fucking oil painting.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
I
got
feel bad for your chosen profession as artist, but you're in a lot of trouble.
well, I got one, and I wrote like monster under the bed, right? Just because I wanted to see what it would. Monster under the bed horror, and it's this really amazing kind of black and white picture with it, you can see the bed, but it's almost like where the monster is almost coming up, and it's part of the bed. and it looks so badass. And I was like, God damn, I wish I even could draw 1/10 as good as this computer can now draw.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, you got to remember though that computer also has thousands of masters that it's cribbing from.
Yeah. Okay.
I
One
mean,
I would have.
it's drawing from a database of like Dali and Rembrandt and all those people.
Okay,
So.
1/1 millionth of that skill. Like I take
I can draw. I can draw a semi straight line.
that. If I can.
If I can turn the page in any direction I want, then it's a straight line.
Nah, mine always comes out crooked. I got shaky hands, man. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, art's it's an interesting topic. I think a lot of people almost take it for advantage, like take advantage of it when they have it, and they only really miss it when it's not exactly their exact style. I don't know. I love art though. I'm a visual person though, so for me it's like it's almost like essential.
Well, and it is, and I think to Scott's point, that's a big part of it as well. D&D has some beautiful covers,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, heck, I remember the first time I saw Unearthed Arcana and Monster Manual 2 because I was like, oh wow, that's what D&D art can be. It's like, amazing.
Yeah.
But like seeing the wizard hunched over, I'm like, that is cool. That's not a character I'd ever play because I'm playing the character that's delving into a dungeon, but that's what my character's going to be when he's done uh, doing all that stuff. So,
Or I'm going to plug this book because I think it has some of the nicest art I've seen, especially the cover art. But Neon Blood, written by Scott Welker and Charles D. Hogg.
that is pretty
Yeah,
good.
no, honestly,
That is gorgeous cover.
Scott, your cover art, like the cover art on your RPG. I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, "Holy shit, that is so goddamn nice." Oh, I think we lost.
And
I think we lost Scott, by the way.
yeah, he's got a jam in a minute. He's got to get out of here soon.
Oh, okay, so he's booging off.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's going to just hear the plug. Oh.
So why did you mute Scott, man?
I didn't mute him. I swear.
What did Scott say?
It was me. I'm an idiot.
I knew you did. I was just I was just busting Santa's chops.
I only mute you, Finder. Don't worry. You're the only one. You're the only one for me for muting.
Oh, well, you put it like that.
Yeah, I do got to get out of here though. Sorry.
Cool. No, that's cool. I think we're wrapping up anyways. All right. Thanks for joining us today, Scott. I hope you have a good day, and
I hope so too.
Have a great week.
Yeah, I hope you have a great week. Yeah, I guess a week.
Monterey, California is very beautiful. It just happens to be in California. This fucking state. I made fun of their gas prices today, so it was good. It worked out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Later, bud. Yeah, like I just kind of pulled up his book though, and I'm looking at it now. And if you guys haven't seen it, like some of the shit in it, it's actually a really really pretty book, and almost like what we were talking about layout earlier. You can see how the layout directly plays into how the art is portrayed. Like if you look at it, they almost have like it almost looks like down a drop down menu at times because it is meant to be more of a cyber style, so it looks like a computer almost throughout the entire book, but it has that nice old school feel.
Yep, it's good stuff.
Oh yeah.
And you do need to check out Symbaroum. I mean, look at the cover on that is absolutely beautiful.
I'll see if I have it. Like I have so many.
When you were talking about how you want it to evoke something for you, for me, Symbaroum, that the core rule book, it's got like a group of like a party on this column of rock almost. It's in a dark forest, and it's misty, and they've got their weapons. It's like there's danger, but you can't tell what the danger is. It's like danger's everywhere here, and it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous cover.
If I knew how to spell it, I might be able to find it.
Symbaroum.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, I got it here. I got it here.
Ah, it's beautiful. The rest of the artwork inside is just as beautiful.
Ooh,
So
ooh,
beautiful.
yeah, that is. I like the front cover. The big battle scene.
Then check out Black Void. Black Void's got some awesome art
I'll
too. Oh
see
my
if I have that
goodness.
one in my Dropbox. No, I don't have that one in my Dropbox. The amount of RPGs I have, it's like I don't even know what I own anymore.
Well, yeah, that's how I am on Drive Through as well.
Yeah.
It's like, oh hey, we were playing a game with on our Saturday group one time, and one of the guys like, oh hey, I own that book. It's like, yeah,
Yeah. It's yeah.
that's the problem with Drive Through is it makes it easy to buy stuff that you never end
Oh
up using.
God, I know.
And again, because it's invisible, it's on my computer, I don't see it.
Yep. Like I also troll for was it RPGs on that bundle of holding. Every once in a
Uh
while,
huh.
I'll see if that one, see if it has anything good.
Bundle of Holding and Humble Bundle.
Oh yeah,
I use both of them.
I think yeah they got BattleTech right now. I have no idea about the RPG for BattleTech. And I think that's another one where they have like even just like looking at the art, it still kind of has that old school feel that I kind of appreciate more. Their newer books, it sounds weird, but I kind of like their art style slightly less.
Yeah. Well, so for me, it's like there comes a point where the computer generated art, which I want to distinguish between computer generated and AI, because I realize AI is still computer generated, but
Mm-hmm.
you've got computer generated art that looks too clean.
Mm-hmm.
I like, or it also like might look too plasticky or too fake,
Yeah.
um, which I don't like. But some of the old school stuff has that grungy feel to it, which I really like.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends on the artist because like Larry Elmore does some great fantasy art.
Oh yeah.
In fact, it was that his name alone that had me back one of the Kickstarters that I backed because it was one of his things. I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So it's like I love Larry Elmore.
Yeah,
But
I'm looking through Symbaroum 5e artwork, and I'm just like, just artwork alone, and I'm like, wow, it's so pretty. Maybe I
yeah.
do. It's 5e though. That's the only issue.
Oh, and hey,
What?
happy coincidence.
What?
Our bundle of holding has Legacy, which I was talking about earlier.
Woo.
And that front cover, I believe that front cover is actually Grand Failure.
Oh, the Life Among the Ruins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that one looks
Oh,
pretty
and
cool.
that is a Powered by the Apocalypse, so it may not be Modiphius. I'm pretty sure it's Modiphius. I'd have to go outside the room to look.
Yeah, but yeah, I think
Oh, on this website, they're talking about UFO Press and Rowan Rook and Deckard, so maybe it's not Modiphius. Maybe Modiphius was just the publisher that
like
acted
for
as
which game
to get the physical
for
book.
Legacy.
Legacy Life Among the Ruins, second edition.
Oh, I don't.
So like the Free League does publish things for other companies at times, like they'll do the publication of it,
Yeah.
but it's still somebody else's game, sort of thing. I don't know.
So bad
It's
that
kind
I'm
of weird.
more actually interested in getting it since you said Rowan, Rook, and Deckard.
Oh yeah, so it's like UFO Press and its publisher Rowan Rook and Deckard have kindly provided all customers of these. Yeah,
Oh, so they're just
so I
the
mean,
publisher on this one.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I, and yeah, I kind of like also Rowan, Rook, and Deckard's art. Not all their books, but I like it when they do have like they're a little bit more darker ones, like their the Spire one. I really like the art in that one because again, I think it if it almost impersonates kind of watercolors in some way, I'm almost more drawn to it. Or if it's a little bit more grungy, I'm a little bit drawn to it. But
See, I like watercolor. I like grungy. For me, it depends on what they're trying to do,
Yeah.
because sometimes watercolor is not the medium that you want to use. Like I don't consider watercolor the appropriate medium for horror.
No, but it would go really good if I feel like if they made a special edition of Legend of the Five Rings and they did it all in traditional Japanese art style, it would like
See, that would be cool.
that
I
would be
agree.
beautiful.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
And it would so suit this like the scene, and especially if they did, the watercolors that they did in the old ones, and even if they took like the um old there weren't books, but like what were they? Like, the old kind of like books that they had back in like old Japan, with the art styles and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
the first time that, tentacle porn popped up. Um I'm not kidding. For some reason, old school Japanese art has still had like tentacle porn in it, and it also was really fascinated with farts. Well, I don't get it, but
I don't even. Until this conversation, I had no idea that tentacle porn was a thing. This world frightens and confuses me. I'm a
yeah, it
caveman
was like
lawyer.
called like I think it came from a thing called like the Fisherman's Wife or something like that. I forget. I'm really like worried to write things on Google for this kind of shit.
I don't know why.
Uh,
Why would you be
it,
worried about something like that?
I'm not telling anyone to Google this. But if you're like,
But Google
what the fuck is he talking about? Like, this is Google the dream of the fisherman's wife. That's a, it's a,
it.
yeah, it's a.
I thought you just said you're not telling anybody to Google it.
I'm
And you
not
told them
telling
to
anyone to
Google it.
Google it. I'm just saying, if you think I'm lying, then Google it, and then you're like, no, he's not lying. Um, if you prefer to just live in ignorance and believe that humans are all very innocent, don't Google it. Like it's not that like the images themselves are that one. No, they're okay, yeah. Anyways, new topic. So on today's episode, we're going to be discussing happy
Tentacle
oh
porn
god.
and sex moves in Powered by the
Oh
Apocalypse.
yes, okay, that's a good topic. Scott's not here, so he would hate that.
So we gotta save it for him.
Oh.
Well, this has gone completely off rails. So
Actually, this was
up.
if you think about it, this episode was a little bit more concise, directed
Oh,
towards a
agreed.
point than about all our other episodes. So give yourself a pat on the back because we did it. We did it, guys. Scott, we did it. Oh, he's gone.
He'll hear it when we get when it goes live.
Yeah. So, Finder, what did we learn today?
Art is subjective, but really important.
That is true.
Was that succinct? Was that succinct enough?
Yeah, and also,
and don't Google the fisherman's wife. Is that what you
don't
said?
Google it unless you think I'm
I
lying.
know,
In
but
that case, Google it.
what was that? What was it that I'm supposed to Google? Then
The dream of the fisherman's wife. Do not Google it unless you think I'm lying. In that case,
and then on Tuesday that trends on.
People are going to Google it and be like, "What the fuck?"
If only we had that far reach. So tell all your friends to Google it. Yeah, don't you all Google it, but tell your friends to Google it and tell their friends to have them tell their friends to Google it. So we want it to trend.
Okay then. And also, Finder mentioned it earlier, but we also have Discord. I'll be posting the Discord link in the episodes for the future, not for all the time, but just for a little bit since I know it's brand new. I'd also like to thank Dot because she has decided on our Discord to throw in. What is it? We made a little channel which is just called Dot's Writers Room, where she posts a picture. relevant to the episode
Art
of art, and we have to write a short story based on it. And if that interests you, I highly recommend checking out Dot herself. I'm going to give a shout out to. She's also one of the people in Resting Glitch Face. So thank you very much, Dot, for if you're listening to this episode. You're absolutely great, and hopefully we'll have many more Discord server chats named after you at some point.
Yeah. Well, and join the Discord so we can have more pedantic discussions outside of this weekly podcast.
Yeah, I know. I almost feel like we should
daily pedantic discussions.
Oh my god, we like I I don't think people realize how much we actually talk about this shit outside of the podcast. Like I think they've like the people who have just joined the podcast have just gotten a very brief hint of it, but yeah, we talk about a lot. But anyways, folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Put on a like on this episode, and if you have any friends who might like this, let them know, because every little bit counts, and we're just a tiny little channel, and we'd love to grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you all have a great. Oh, I forgot my normal speech. Wow. If you like this episode, please send me an email at rpsmartpeople@gmail.com. And if you hated this episode, then you can message me on Twitter at rpsmartpeople. Hopefully you like it though, and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.
Later.